The Lotus-eater by Horizon. Note that this is related to No Regrets, but it's a completely separate story. Anyways, shall we begin with Chapter 1? Applejack. "Alright, brother of mine, she's in," Flim says, flicking one last switch on the monitor console and walking away. "We'll check her in a minute or, oh my." Flim turns. The door to the machine has been opened from the inside, and the orange earth pony is staggering out, eyes blurry with tears. He's at her side in a moment. "Miss, are you—" She throws her hooves around his withers, lets out a sob, and buries her face in his shoulder, clinging like a shipwrecked survivor, waves of shakes breaking against her body. Flim looks back helplessly at his brother. Flam shrugs, wide-eyed, and sidles over to examine the monitors. Flim holds the sobbing earth pony awkwardly, stroking her mane. Then he finally realizes why her face looks familiar, and it gets worse. She's that orchard owner from Ponyville. His throat tightens. Visions swirl of angry mobs, pitchforks. He feels sweat bead on his brow. "My dear mare," he mutters, bracing himself to break the cardinal, inviolable rule. "We're deeply, deeply sorry for whatever it was that happened, and please allow me to offer a—" Despite his desperation, he has to force himself to say it, "a ref." "It worked," Flim interrupted. "The spell activated and completed." Flim blinks. "Completed? That quickly?" "Our apologies, miss," Flam says. "It looks like the machine might need some calibration. We'll give you some discount tickets for the carnival rides." Flim gestures at what was her name, Applejack or something, frantically with a hoof. "We'll give her," Flim hisses, "her bits back." Flam stares at his brother in disbelief, then down at the mare clinging to Flim. Finally, his eyes widen in recognition. "Oh, yes, that might be arranged." She takes a few gasping breaths, struggling for control, then looks up at the inventors. Under her tear-streaked cheeks is a bittersweet smile. The mare finally finds her voice. "That's right. Decent of y'all, but there's no need." "The machine eliminates your greatest regret," Flim says, automatically. "Lets you visit a happier world," Flam adds, which it clearly didn't. "We stand behind our product, madam." "Well, it worked," she says, shifting her weight shakily back to her own hooves. Flim and Flam exchanged a speechless glance. "I reckon I wasn't expecting much from y'all after that mess with the cider," she says, rubbing her cheeks with a pastern. "But I had to try, had to see." Flim, utterly lost, breaks the second rule. "Had to see what? What was your regret?" The mare reaches over to the peg by the door of the machine, pausing as her hoof touches her Stetson. "I regretted doing the right thing." She lifts the brim of her hat and stares at the band. "I listened to the smart bits of my heart instead of the selfish bits, and it ripped a little hole in me I never rightly mended." "What did you see inside?" Flim says. He has to hear this now. "Brother," Flam protests. Flim pushes him away. "If you don't mind me asking." She takes a long breath. "Pa," she says quietly. "After the accident." Flim immediately regrets his curiosity. "Oh, I'm sorry." But the words are pouring out of her now, the dam broken. "We were all in the waiting room. One of the nurses came out looking a right wreck. She asked me and Mac and Gran. I gave Applebloom to Honeycrisp to hold, and we went over to listen to her. She said—" The mare pauses and swallows. "There was nothing they could do. Soon as their Mage got too tired to keep up the life support, he'd be gone, and they'd gotten him awake to say his goodbyes. The Earth Pony's jaw begins to tremble. She said Pa wanted us to swear on our hats not to go see him. He said he didn't want our last memories of him to be what ended him. He said he loved us an awful lot, and we were there. Finest ponies the stallion could ever ask to raise, and he was real proud of us, and real sorry. He said he'd see us in the stars some day, but he hoped not for a real long time. Flim risks a gentle hoof touch on her shoulder. I'm glad you got to hear that. That ain't, she takes a tight breath, ain't what your machine did. For a second, while Gran was checking on Apple Bloom and the nurse was talking with Mac, no pony was watching me. I was right next to the door. This time, I thought to hay bales with what Pa said. I'd be cussed if his eldest mare weren't going to be there for him. No, second guessing this time, I snuck into the room and before any pony noticed. The mare's jaw worked soundlessly. The brothers gave each other an apprehensive glance. He was... Neither Flim nor Flam dared to speak. Few cubits away, a squealing colt and filly dashed by, chasing each other down the midway. She leans in to Flim and plants a light kiss on his cheek. Thank you, she says, forcing a smile. She walks away, not looking back.